first bit of news, huge news for me. I was super excited about this. This dropped a couple of days ago from the day we're recording this. Via the official Mass Effect website, Aaron Flynn, who's the general manager of BioWare, wrote that Mass Effect Andromeda is going to be dropping March 21st, 2017. This isn't a surprise if you've been keeping up on all the leaks and rumors regarding Mass Effect Andromeda. About a couple of months ago, maybe early November, I would say, there was that leak regarding the art book on Amazon, and it stated that it was coming out March 21st to coincide with the release of the game. And people are like, oh, this outed the game. But then, PSX happened, a lot of other events happened, and we didn't hear anything about the release date. So gamers were kind of worried that maybe it's getting delayed. People still might speculate that it might get delayed. Who knows? But yeah, so we have an official release date. We have Tuesday, March 21st for the U.S., North America, rather, and March 23rd for Europe, which I think is weird. A lot of stuff releases worldwide nowadays, so it's really weird that there's a 2-day separation there. But I'm excited. He goes on to talk about how Mass Effect Andromeda is, going to be an interesting step for the franchise and stuff like that. So I'm super excited about the release date. What about you guys? What are your thoughts on March 21st being the day we can possibly play this, hopefully?
First of all, it's not getting delayed. Come on. It's 2 months away. Like, that would be ridiculous. I envisioned it would get announced any time now for, like, May and then get delayed into the fall. But they slapped me right across the face with that prediction. It all feels odd, though. It just kind of, like, comes out in a blog post.
Well, before we go forward, let me read this for you. This last piece of this blog entry might explain something for you. So over this holiday break, this is Aaron Flynn's words. Over this holiday break, developers at BioWare took home a version of the game in what we call the holiday build. This is a long-standing studio tradition that goes back to the early days of the original Mass Effect. Many load up a PC or a console, go home to play it as much as possible at their leisure. Coming back from holiday, the feedback has been great. Getting the endorsement from members of our studio, many of whom played many key roles in the original trilogy, was definitely a key factor in helping us lock in on the date. So maybe they didn't give a release date because they weren't sure that it was in a state to release. And over this holiday break, all of these people who are key parts of the Mass Effect trilogy got to play and said, yeah, it's good, it's polished. As polished as it can be at that point.
That's crazy. So it's almost like they thought I was right and they didn't think it was going to make it for March 21st. And then the leadership anyway. And so that's why they never set a date. And then, I guess after all that, wow, that's interesting that they put all that information out there too. You don't expect to hear, those kind of details. But
yeah, I think they were nervous to announce a release date because they were afraid that it wasn't ready yet and they didn't want to announce a release date and then get it delayed.
Yeah.
And I think them having the feedback and like the support and endorsement from the people who've worked on the other 3 games saying like, no, it's good. We just need a couple, a little bit more polish and it's good to go. It's fine. So I think that's why they all of a sudden announced the release date because they weren't sure. And I know some people might speculate you're announcing the release date a little too late, but on the opposite end of that, people could complain that they announced it too early and then it gets delayed, So I think they were doing the best they could of like being worried enough that it might get delayed. So I think this is the earliest they felt comfortable announcing the release date. So what do you feel, Jordan? I know you have some thoughts on this.
I think I've said it before. I feel like they've botched a lot of the reveals and just the general road to release. It's clear that they've had some issues and that they've had some things that they've changed over the course of time, which happens in game development, but it seems like this has been a particularly rocky situation. So at this point, I'm pretty hopeful that it's going to come out this date because it'd be weird to announce this date so close and then delay it. But at this point, I'm really just hoping it's a good game because I'm honestly going to be worried about it until I'm playing it.
Yeah, I have the utmost confidence just from everybody involved that I don't think it'll be any less than a good game. But I really have high expectations that it's going to be a great game. And we'll see. I think another thing here that's interesting is, Mass Effect was a huge driving force for the longest time for BioWare. Now BioWare's working on some Star Wars games, and those are going to be the forefront of BioWare's, thoughts. Like they're worrying about those because a Star Wars game will sell if it's good, right? Even if it's not good, it's a Star Wars game. So I think it's going to be interesting now that Mass Effect isn't BioWare's number one thing. Because obviously Mass Effect was more popular to more people than Dragon Age was, and now Mass Effect I think dropped down to number 2, Dragon Age number 3, and now the Star Wars properties are number 1, obviously because it's Star Wars. So I think this is also a lot of this is reactionary towards the feelings they got on Mass Effect 3's ending and all of that stuff, and I think they would rather be safe than sorry. And though it does come off weird that they're doing gameplay reveals and stuff weird, I think that they're just trying to be extra safe as opposed to being too bullish, you know. So I'm interested to see what happens. I hope it comes out March 21st. Hopefully it doesn't get delayed, but like we've stated before, delays aren't necessarily a bad thing. They suck for gamers, and it's bad messaging and bad communicating, but no game's ever been worse for getting delayed. So we'll see what happens there. Next up, we're going to be talking about Nintendo Switch. Shocker. As of recording this, the Nintendo Switch event is a week away, and we're going to get the reveal of the games we have planned for us. This isn't actually in the news story, just something I want to say. There's a report stating now that it's looking like Breath of the Wild will be a launch game. There were previous reports saying that it might miss the launch window, and it might actually be later on after the Switch release. There's new reports now saying that was wrong, that Breath of the Wild is more than likely going to be a launch title. So good news there, Dom, for you. But the actual news story we're going to get into here comes by way of Polygon. Allegra Frank writes, Nintendo promises in-depth look at first Switch games on January 13th. There's not much else to the article. So what they're going to do is they're going to have a Treehouse live stream the day after the Nintendo Switch press conference to get an in-depth look at all the games they announce, probably all of the launch titles and games coming out. And we can talk about this. Obviously, it's not too much to talk about them having a live stream. What I'm interested with you guys is, do you think that the primary focus, or the in-depth look as they're calling it, for the Switch games on January 13th, do you think it's only going to be the games at launch, or do you think they're going to give little snippets of the year to come for Switch? You know, the biggest thing with Nintendo is people are afraid that it's not going to have third-party support, that there isn't a good catalog of games to warrant you purchasing this, you know, where games are consistently coming out for the device. With them mixing handheld and console, do you think that they're going to give you, you know, a year in review or a year in advance? Here's Switch, here's what's coming, and here's a little look at everything. So what do you guys think? How do you guys think they're going to handle it?
Oh, they're going to announce several games, right? They're going to confirm probably a lot of what we've been hearing about some of the Wii U games that are getting ported. And then they're going to, you know, give us a Zelda date, presumably, and announce this new Mario game. And then, I think you're going to hear a lot about what's in the pipeline over the next year, because that's what's going to sell this thing, right? Like, I'm going to buy this now, and there's these couple games that are coming out right away that are great. And then also, they got stuff planned all year. So I think it would be wise of them to start marketing all that immediately.
Well, we already have some games that we can talk about real quick. We have the exclusive that we talked about a couple of weeks ago, Dom, the one about the kid and the dog. There's a rumor that Mother 3 is going to come to the U.S. for the first time on the Switch as an exclusive, which is crazy. There's another report that Assassin's Creed, the new one that's coming out next year that's based in Egypt, is going to come out day and date on the Switch with the other consoles, which is crazy. We have Breath of the Wild. So we have a lot in play here. Jordan, how do you think they're going to handle this in-depth look? What are we getting exactly?
To be honest, I really have no idea, just because of the fact that I'm still not sure if we're looking at new Nintendo or old Nintendo. And, you know, we may be in a transitional phase, so it may be a little bit of both. But, you know, they just keep going back and forth on these things where I think they're making great decisions, but then, you know, they make a great decision in the NES Classic, but then there's not nearly enough stock, and the controller cord's too short, and it's just like, man, they're still not completely on the ball. So if anything, I know that they're going to show off their exclusive games, you know, their Zeldas and their Marios, maybe even a Metroid, but I'm still skeptical on whether or not we're going to be seeing that third-party support.
Yeah, and you have every right to do so. I mean, their history speaks for itself. A lot of people are optimistic in nature, saying that maybe this is a new Nintendo, which we can give them the benefit of the doubt that might be the case. But like you said, more recently they did show us a case of Nintendo being Nintendo with NES Classic, so that creating that artificial demand, as they always do. it's interesting because for me, I never really felt that there was an artificial demand on their handhelds. It's always been on their consoles, it seems like.
Yeah.
And now that they're mixing both, it's going to be interesting how that falls into place, right? So we'll see. I think that this is smart because it's one thing to have an event where you announce everything like, here's the Switch, here's everything coming to it. But then to also back that up with an event the following day being like, if you want to see more of the games, here, we'll show you more of the games. And I think that's them doubling down on like, we need the Switch to succeed. We want the Switch to succeed. So I'm very interested. I'm very excited. We're definitely going to be talking about the Switch. It'll probably be the main focus of our podcast next week. So let's move on to the next story here because we'll have plenty of stuff to talk about with Switch next week. The last story comes by way of Polygon as well. Michael McWhorter writes, PlayStation 4 sales surpassed 53 million. Uncharted 4 moves 8.7 million. Obviously, the story's there in the title. It's not surprising PlayStation 4 past 53 million. I think the numbers for Uncharted 4 are more impressive personally because earlier it was reported that it sold between 5 and 5.9 million units, and seeing that it's above 8 is crazy. It's not surprising. Uncharted is PlayStation. I'm not surprised at the attach rate. It also states that Sony sold more than 6.2 million PlayStation 4 consoles, so that's including the PS4 Pro as well as the PS4. It's very interesting. Nowhere in this article does it really talk about the sales numbers for PlayStation VR, which obviously Sony is keeping close to the vest considering it's not meeting sales expectations. But yeah, what do you guys have to say about, them passing 53 million PS4s and the success of Uncharted 4 and the actual numbers?
Do you think the Uncharted numbers have, are they including bundles?
I think they're inflated. Yeah. It's still impressive, but I think they're inflated. I think that's super impressive. It's not surprising, though. I think those are two different things. My expectations aren't shocked by this. It's Uncharted. But it's good to see the actual number, right? And I'd be more interested to see if they'd ever reveal those PSVR numbers because though there will be a future for Uncharted, PlayStation is having new franchises or different IP going to be the forefront now, right? Obviously, Uncharted 4, A Thief's End was the end of Drake's story as we know it, and they're going to have to find other things to rely on. Last of Us 2 isn't going to be out for a while. Death Stranding isn't going to be out for a while. They're trying to hit on Horizon Zero Dawn. Let's see how that hits. But yeah, I'm very intrigued by this. Dom, you love Uncharted 4. Are you surprised it sold that many units?
Yeah, dude, I was shocked at that number. You are right, though. I mean, because how many consoles did they sell over the last 2 months?
6.2 million or so? Yeah.
Exactly. And for the last 2 months, what's the only PlayStation 4 you can buy? It's the $250 one that's bundled with Uncharted 4. So you got to imagine at least 5 million of those sales were for that unit with that game, and those all add into that 8.7 number or whatever it was for Uncharted copies. Because I remember earlier this year, just a few months ago, they reported around 4 million or so for Uncharted 4. So that game definitely got a boost from that bundle. Yeah. So it's still impressive though.
Yeah, it's insane. So Sony actually boasted that 50.4 million PS4 games were sold both at retail and digitally during that same holiday period. So you assume if they include the bundle, that means that, what is that, 1/5? Is that right, math? 1, 2, 3, 4. 1/4 of every game sold for PS4 was Uncharted 4? That's crazy. That's insane. And yeah, it is bundled, but that's how Wii got a lot of its numbers, with Wii Sports and such. So either way, whether it's bundled or not, it's still impressive. The 53 million isn't as impressive to me because, that number is not... A lot of people think it's going to reach some astronomical numbers with PS4. There's a lot... Yeah, there's a lot of PS4s in the market already. And I know some people might upgrade to PS4 Pro, but that number I don't think is going to skyrocket anytime soon, right? There's already a lot of PS4s in the market. So it is surprising to see that they sold 6.2 million in the holiday when there's so many out there. So yeah, congratulations to Sony. You made a lot of money. That's pretty much all we can say on the matter.
PlayStation did, at least.
Yeah, that's true.
I don't know about Sony.
Well, via PlayStation, Sony made money, I guess.